What is going on, Mad Hatters, and welcome back to the Madhouse. And today's video is all about the beginning of our meta for Fabled. We're going to look at deck lists from two different events, as well as a couple other deck lists that did well at different events that I was able to get my hands on. And then finally, we'll end with looking at two first place decks in Infinity format that played this past weekend, because we still have Infinity DLCs and things like that. So, disclaimer right off the bat, ladies and gentlemen, we are 4 days into the new set, all right? That means 4 days of some people only started testing very recently. So you have to remember that we're seeing a lot of Purple Steel, a lot of Blurple right off the bat, and it's kind of the easiest decks that we just got to flow into. The play styles of them did not change at all. When we look at a lot of these other decks, they lost a lot of those extremely potent cards, and the play styles of them have changed dramatically. So people have to figure them out. But Purple Steel and Blurple, they lost the bounce package, which is a big deal. But the play style has remained the same. Not to mention, they got some really great cards like Dumbo, like they have good draw package. Purple Steel has Strength of a Raging Fire. Blurple has Hades and Ramp. And so they were just naturally the easiest ones to flow into because they're ones that people have experience with. I have no doubt that the meta is going to continue to develop as people continue to theory craft. Personally, the decks that I've been really enjoying right now have been doing really well into Purple Steel and been doing well into Blurple, and it's just people have to figure those things out, all right? So don't doom and gloom yet. I promise it's going to be okay. Before we get into the rest of the video, though, I just want to do a humble brag. I finally got 99 agility in old school RuneScape. So for all my old school RuneScapers, let me know in the comments if you still play, all right? Or if you remember the glory days of when you played back in the day. I still do. I love it. It's just a good way to bide my time. But before we get into it, let's move my face on out of the way. We'll do this, and I do want to shout out the Safari Zone collectible Fabled 5K coming up October 4th, all right? It's going to be the first day of set champs. Keep that in mind. But an amazing event, great air conditioning, great restrooms, great staff, tons and tons of product, and it's my neck of the woods. So I will not be there. I will not be back from my deployment quite yet, but it's still an amazing event. I've never heard anything bad about it, and everybody generally just has a great time. So make sure, give it a chance. Check it out, guys. If you're on the Northeast near Smyrna, Delaware, check it out. Without further ado, let's jump into it. And first up, we have the Encounter Games 9-case event, what started as an 8-case event and then upgraded to a 9-case event. 73 players over in, well, just north of where I'm at in Delaware. So yeah, just north of us at Encounter Games. So really good store that puts on a lot of different events. They've done some Enchanted Elsa events and 1Ks and 2Ks. I haven't personally been there myself, but I've heard good things. So great store that continues to put out great events. Looking at the top 8 though, we have 3 in Purple Steel, 4 in Blurple, and 1 in Amber Steel. Now that Purple Steel and that Blurple, there's a theme going on with that, okay? And that we're just gonna we'll see that in the next one as well, and just keep that in mind. And we already talked about it, but yeah. So this is our top 8. So let's look at who won. We're gonna look at the top 4 lists, and all top 4 they split the 9 or the whatever the top 4 was, however many cases that was. But with that being said, Logan Taylor was given the win as far as inkdecks goes, and this was his Blurple list. Looking at it, it's kind of what we're looking to expect. Well, one of the big highlights in this list in particular is Baymax, you know, the 5-cost inkable 2/6/2. And when you play this character, and whenever he quests, you may remove up to 2 damage from another chosen character of yours. Gain 1 lore for each 1 damage removed this way. And from what I understand, he said that Baymax gained him about 30 lore over the past weekend. So Baymax just doing really hot in a really challenge-heavy meta. So something to consider. Maybe you're looking at a lot of Purple Steel in your local meta, or you're going to be doing a lot of Iago battles and things like that. So maybe you can give that Baymax a try and see how you like it. Another standout is the Madam Mim Elephant. We're going to see that in quite a few lists. It is the only there's other bounce. It is a bounce that we have still in the current meta. Madam Mim letting you bounce one of those characters. Maybe it's one of those one drops that you don't need anymore, the Tipo because you want to ramp faster. Maybe you bounce later the Hades. But the other part of Madam Mim is she's a 3/7, so she trades into a lot of purple steel, and she has that ability at the start of your turn. You may move up to 2 damage counters from this character to chosen opposing character. So that's a big deal also against, you know, things with resist. For example, that Calhoun, if you move 2 damage counters from Elephant to Calhoun, Calhoun gets banished. You can do it to Lawrence to remove his attack. You can do it to Rhino so he no longer gets the resist. You get the point. And then finally, TikTok, that 6-cost inkable evasive 4/7 quest for 1. Another common theme you're going to see in a lot of these Blurple decks this weekend. TikTok is just, he's a 4/7. He trades into Genie really well. He trades into Dumbo and survives. He sets up the Baymax and the Madam Mim really well. Just a strong character. Honestly, one that I forgot existed until this weekend, but I saw TikTok put in a lot of work over the course of the weekend, so I'd imagine it's something we're going to continue to see quite a bit of, because it's just a card that is difficult to answer. You almost have to answer it with something like a Hades, or you could go Iago plus, you know, Iago plus Hypnotic Strength is only 6 even at that point. So like it's that, you get the point. TikTok is difficult to answer for sure. Running the 8-cost Elsa, right? So that questing for 3 probably coming in, getting some good quests out of that. Also helping to stop aggro, really strong there. So just a Blurple list that you'll see a common theme. You're not going to see a lot of Baymaxes. That one's a little more unique. Also a lot of Elsas, but Logan doing really well with it this past weekend and having a good showing, getting that top 4 split in a 73-person event. Next up, we've got my boy Royce Townsend, a local that plays at Safari Zone Collectibles quite often, playing Purple Steel. Now, this gentleman, last set, he ran quite a bit of dogs. I know he ran some Amber Steel aggro to a lot of success as well to win some set champs. And this time jumping on Purple Steel and has had a lot of success with it, running almost a toolboxy version. We see a lot of these 2-ofs in the list, the 2 Smees, the 2 Lilos, Yzmas, Bells, etc., etc. But just a lot of answers overall. You have the Genie Dragon, which can be extremely difficult for a lot of decks to deal with when they're playing so many evasive characters, and you have that Hypnotic Strength, so Genie can take out the opponent's Genie, which is really good. But also, if you have Genie down, you can also just Lilo to take out the opponent's Genie also, or Elsa, things like that. Royce did opt to run the Tinkerbell package. I talked about this in my last video. I'm personally not a fan of the Tinkerbell package in Purple Steel. I don't know. Like I said, all the matches that I've had against Tinkerbell Purple Steels, I felt have been easier to navigate than the ones without the Tinkerbell package. But Royce, an extremely talented player, and I know that he tested with and without it. One of the advantages of running Tinkerbell is the Dumbo, right? When you're running Tinkerbell and all these, the Genie and the Elsa, you get a lot more targets for the Dumbo, the 9th wonder of the world. And that coming in, so you can play the Tinkerbell on turn 3, you play Genie on turn 4, and then you have the option, you can play Dumbo on turn 5 to get that immediate draw. So you play him on turn 5, and then you get to exert that character to draw a card, also paying 1 ink, of course. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you were playing Dumbo this past weekend and you felt that he just didn't do a lot for you, I'd wager you were probably playing him at the wrong time. Dumbo is not a turn 4 card the majority of the time. He's a card that you want to play after you've already started developing your other evasive character, so he can come down and get immediate ability, like use of his ability, because you know your opponent's going to have Strength of a Raging Fire, You're Welcome, Mother Knows Best, Elsa, tons of different answers for that Dumbo. So get that ability going as soon as you play it, i.e. 3, turn 5, 6, etc., etc. Another one that's in here, we see the Desperate Plan. One, just drawing 3 cards. Again, the name of the game right now is how can you get card advantage? So how can you use the advantage that you have with the characters you have? So we've got Doc, we've got Yzma, we've got Genie, Dumbo, Desperate Plan. So lots of draw going on in the list overall. So really good showing, Royce. More of a toolboxy kind of version with all these 2-ofs, but navigated it with a lot of success. So good job, man. Next up, we've got Noah with his version of Purple Steel, also running the Tinkerbell shift package. So maybe I'm the one in the wrong overall, but some of the key standouts in this list is going to be the Timothy Q Mouse. He's the 2-cost inkable 1/4/1, but when you have a character with evasive in play, he now quests for 2. So kind of a more aggro route that you can take with this Timothy. That's what you're doing here. So with those evasives, you're looking at the Tinkerbell, the Genie, the Elsa. So you kind of have to set them up really nicely. I think this is the only list we see Timothy in, but working really well for him. We see the Panic, though, another standout card. 2/3, quest for 2, 4 cost. When you play this character, you may move up to 2 damage counters from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So that, another one that can come in quite nicely. Maybe you played Tinkerbell on something, or you played Tinkerbell on the field, you dealt 1 damage and to everything, and then you use that Panic the next turn to move damage, or you trade into something. Maybe your Calhoun takes 1 damage and you want to get that damage off, or you get the point. Panic just being another option to move damage around, which can be quite effective. I mean, it's a lot of how Red Purple is looking at its future of success. Panic also another good way to heal your Lawrence. So Lawrence, when this character has no damage, he gets +4 attack, and so with Panic, you can now use Lawrence to challenge things if you want, and Panic as well as Belle are going to be able to help you keep that Lawrence at 4 attack by moving that damage around. Meanwhile, Lawrence being able to soak up so much damage for Belle and Panic. So good list. Congratulations, Noah. And that's our top 4. No, Anthony. How could I forget Anthony, the other Blurple player taking the top 4 split. And this one actually extremely similar. If we go back right here, too far, right here, the lists are not very far off. You'll notice, though, this one not running the Baymax, but we're on the 3 copies of Elsa. The one thing with this list is you're looking at 7 high costs on inkable cards. So 7, only 11 total on inkables, but 7 of them are a pretty penny. So I'd be curious how often Anthony finds himself with that high amount of uninkables, or getting kind of bricked, and which never feels good, because when you run this many high costs on inkables, it can be a little dangerous to really alter heavy for that turn 2 ramp, which is something that Blurple really needs. You'll notice Blurple not running any 3 costs in this deck. So if you miss that turn 2 ramp, you're going to have what's probably going to be an extremely weak turn 3. So it's something to keep in mind. If you opt to run this list, keep in mind that your alters can get really, really nasty when you run so many high costs on inkables. But the list also running the Dumbo, of course, running the Madam Mim Elephant. I think there's 9 purple lists in this video, and I believe 6 of them are running Dumbo. And honestly, I'd wager that the other 2 are not, because they just couldn't get their hands on Dumbos. Like, that's just the way it is. They were selling for $100+ this weekend for just non-foil Dumbos because people wanted it so badly. Running the Develop Your Brains, I'm a huge fan of Develop Your Brain. I talked about it in my other video. I think it's just a phenomenal card. Pay 1, look at 2 cards, take 1. Just awesome. I love Develop. I'm a bigger fan of Develop over Visions. But they both have their use cases. I just find Develop to be better in a lot of situations, but you can't argue with digging through 5 cards to find the one that could save the day. So good job, Anthony. Way to take home some cases. Next up, we have the SSG event. This is the 128 players, the 15 case event. When we look at top 8, we have 2 on Purple Steel, we have 5 on Blurple, and 1 on Red Purple. One thing to look at here, all of top 8 is Amethyst or Purple, okay? So Amethyst, again, just strong. It's strong right off the bat. We knew it was going to be strong. It's the easiest list to kind of just navigate towards because we've been playing a lot of Purple in the past. We know and look at the cards and see Genie is a strong card. Dumbo is a strong card. But again, ladies and gentlemen, let the meta develop. But looking at the list overall, I wanted to look at Eric's first. This is not one of the top 4s. He took top 8, but I just had to highlight a Red-Purple list because watching Red-Purple play this weekend was a lot of fun. We saw it on stream in at the SSG event. I believe it was the first game that we saw on stream, and it was just really cool to watch. I don't remember if he won that match or not, but I just liked the deck, and if you thought Red Purple was dead, then you may have been wrong, and I'm up there with it. I said in my last video that I don't see Red Purple being a deck this set because I just don't see how it does things better than Blurple and why you'd want to run it. But we saw this weekend why you might want to run it with some more figuring things out. It could be a competitor. One thing that Red Purple does do better than Blurple is it has a great matchup into these aggro decks that are going to be popping up. The dog decks and the dog as well as Amber Steel, because we have that great early game. That Palace Guard with Lumiere, the Queen of Hearts, but even more importantly, we have this Madame Medusa and Mother Gothel. And Madame Medusa, of course, 3 cost, 3/3, quest for 1. When you play this character, you may deal 2 damage to another chosen character of yours to return chosen character with cost 2 or less to their player's hand. So this can be really good because you can bounce your opponent's Calhoun or something, maybe an opponent's Nala, and then you give your Queen of Hearts 2 damage, so now she becomes a 4/2, we're a 4/4 with 2 damage. The other one, Mother Gothel, which you have to go back and try and watch SSG's VOD of game 1 because we really saw this Mother Gothel go off, and I was flabbergasted. Whenever one of your character's challenges, you may move 1 damage counter from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So this is really important for a lot of different reasons and really good for a lot of different reasons. First off, it's whenever your character challenges. So if you challenge, you get to move a damage before you actually challenge, or you're challenging, you're declaring the challenge, you move the damage before you take any damage. So what that means is, let's say your Mulan is challenging something and you're challenging into a Lawrence, okay? So your Mulan will move the 1 damage from herself to Lawrence, and then Lawrence becomes a 0/4 because 0/4 with 1 damage, and because he has 1 damage, he loses his 4 attack. So that Mulan, if you have Lumiere down, can now banish that Lawrence. So there's a lot of different things going on here, and the fact that it's a damage counter means that it gets around resist as well. You put that 1 damage on it, so it can take out, a Mulan now can take out a Shift Rhino because you move the damage counter from Mulan to the Shift Rhino. So now he loses his resist, and then Mulan takes out the Shift Rhino. And that's just one way you can use it. Again, Prince John is getting damage counters every time that you play a character or your opponent plays a character. So now Prince John has a constant way to utilize Mother Gothel's effect. So, and the other thing to keep in mind is it's not just the character that is challenging. So if you have a Prince John down and he's taking these damage counters, let's say he has 4 damage counters, you get to move a damage counter for every character that challenges, whenever one of your characters challenges. So essentially, you can let's say Mulan. Again, we're on Mulan. Mulan challenges into the Lawrence. You move 1 damage to that Lawrence, and then you deal 2 damage to that Lawrence. So now, if you challenge with Diablo, Diablo can challenge into that Lawrence, move 1 damage counter to Lawrence, and Lawrence gets banished, and your Diablo and Mulan are still alive to tell the tale. So it was just really neat, and I'm sure I'm harping on it too much, but I really liked seeing the play and the things that Mother Gothel can do. Looking at the rest of the list, Yzma drawing you cards, Moana giving you evasive, and essentially challenger, which is awesome. Everybody's got a weakness. Another card, Bufasa Bros, really, really, really high on this card, and for good reason. When you have a lot of stuff with a lot of different damage counters, move 1 damage counter from each damage characters you have in play to chosen opposing character. Draw a card for each damage counter moved this way. So you can banish things potentially with that. You can draw a bunch of cards. That's all great. Maui Half Shark letting you bring it back. And then we also have the Mulan, that shift 5 that's letting you banish, a bunch of characters when you challenge something. The only thing I'd like to see if Red Purple is testing is if they're testing the new Magic Feather, I believe is the name of it. It's the 2-cost item. We're going to see it in another list, but it gives, while it's on the field, it gives that character evasive. So it might be really good with something like Mulan. Maybe what I would want to know, and maybe you guys can tell me in the comments, if you play Magic Feather and you declare it on your Mulan 1 cost, and then you shift Mulan Elite Archer, does Magic Feather give Mulan Elite Archer evasive? In my head, it does, because like damage counters don't go away, things like that. But let me know in the comments. But Eric, really good job with that. Let's go ahead and jump into the deck list that took first place. That's going to be Thiago, and taking first overall with his version of Purple Steel. It's quite a bit different than the other ones. One thing that I like seeing here is this Treasure Guardian package. When you play this character, if you have an illusion character in play, you may draw a card. So more draw coming in here. Also questing for 2, which is great. Raja is not a bad card either. 3/3 that can take out Calhoun is awesome. Potentially a 4/3 with the Madam Mim. Palace Guard is your Vanish package. So good things going there, as well as Giant Cobra. An amazing, just play this on turn 3 to get a 4/4 down. So you have great bodies on the field. And then the other standout is this Jasmine. This Jasmine, once during your turn, this character gains evasive. She's a 3/7/2, and if you choose and discard a card, this character gets Challenger +3 this turn. And you can do this for however many cards you discard. So she can become, if you have 7 cards, she can become a 24, 21, 22, 23, 24 attack character if you really needed that to happen. So that's pretty cool as well. So a really good list. Just doing things slightly differently. The Treasure Guardian Vanish package kind of reminds me of like the Yin Sid Broom package in that sense. Not questing as much as a Yin Sid, but all doing their thing, working together in that synergy that is what is trying to be figured out in this new meta. Next up, we have Travis taking second place with his version of Blurple, and very different than the ones we've seen. We see the Magic Feather down here. Again, when you play this item, choose a character of yours. While this item is in play, that character gains evasive, and then you can pay 3 ink to return this item to your hand. So if you want to play it on something else, you can do that. Looking at other things we have in here, we have the Rafiki, the 1/4/2, 4-cost uninkable. When you play this character, he gains Challenger +4. Also Rush. I'd be curious if Travis tested Louisa in place of Rafiki. She's the 4/3 quest for 1 with Rush. The fact that Louisa, she might trade evenly or survive is really sexy, because then you still have a 4/3 on board versus Rafiki comes down, clears something, and then sits there as a 1/4. He does quest for 2, which is great, but most anything can take out that Rafiki. So I don't know. I'd be curious if he tested that Louisa at all. The other standout card in here, of course, is the Ursula, the 5-cost inkable. That Ursula, when you play this character, exert chosen opposing ready character. Then you may play a song with cost equal to or less than the exerted character's cost for free. So a lot of the time you're not going to get anything out of this. The only song that you have in your deck right now is Into the Unknown. So potentially you could, lots of 3-cost cards in the deck, things like that. So Into the Unknown, potentially clearing something. But a lot of the time you're just, if you're playing Ursula, you just want a way to be able to challenge characters. So Ursula being a way to kind of break parity. One thing we saw a lot this weekend is people can just lay out these wide boards waiting for that card they need. The Strength of a Raging Fire, the Elsa, the Belle, the Hay, whatever it is. Well, Ursula can be that card now, that pseudo Elsa kind of thing. So I don't know how I feel about it. Probably not good. If I said I wouldn't play it. It's not my cup of tea, but you know, I'm sure Travis found some great testing with it and it worked really well for him. I'm sure. I didn't get to watch finals for this. I was definitely in bed because Player Hub was a pile of hot garbage this weekend, so I did not get to stay up and watch the finals. But the fact that he made it there, I'm sure Ursula did wonders for him throughout the day. And I love the Magic Feather. I think that's a really, really neat idea. So yeah, really, really good showing, man. Next up, we have Rolando taking third with his version of Blurple, and it's very different than the other ones we've been seeing. Standout card, Genie Supportive Friend. So 4 costs an inkable, 3/5/1. Whenever this character quests, you may shuffle this card into your deck to draw 3 cards. So not a bad way to get some card draw that we desperately want in this meta. One thing to keep in mind is we're running that as well as Finders Keepers, so lots of card draw going on in this particular list. Where we also, other cards that stand out is the Queen. This is the only list that we're seeing the Queen in as far as Blurple goes. She's a 4/3/1. You can exert her, choose 3 cards from chosen opponent's discard, and put them on the bottom of their deck to gain 3 lore. If any princess cards removed this way, gain 4 instead. So that's kind of standout, you know, potentially gaining that lore to carry you over the top. It's something that requires you to answer her. So you might have to get rid of something you really want to keep, and unfortunate, but that's just the way it is. But yeah, so it's quite a different Blurple list with that Genie, the Queen, but we see the Rafiki in here again. Worst case scenario, Rafiki clears a character and then gets to quest for 2 until your opponent removes it with something. So not a bad thing, whereas Louisa is only questing for 1. Not bad. Really, next up, we've got Kindle, Kindle, known as No I'm Not, running Blurple. All right, the man is back on the purple train, rocking some Blurple. You'll notice here an interesting card, Rider, 3/4 evasive, 4 cost inkable. One thing that Kindle was not able to get his hands on was that evasive Dumbo, the 9th wonder of the world. So he had to improvise, and one of the ways he improvised was adding in these 2 riders. Now, as far as he said he would add in the 4 Dumbos, without a doubt, I don't know what the other 2 positions would be. Maybe the TikTok, but again, TikTok doing really well this weekend, but I'm not sure. Other things that stand out in this list is you'll notice only 3 Genies. This is the only purple list. I'm pretty sure the only purple list that we've looked at or will look at in this video that's not on 4 Genies. So really standout thing there. But also second star to the right is a big standout. That is a 10 cost uninkable sing together 10. Chosen player draws 5 cards. So when this goes off, you're looking pretty good. Now, I would be curious if Kindle would run it again, what his overall thoughts of it were, because when you get to this point, that's a sing together 10. So I guess if you get that TikTok down that's living through a lot, and you got to the point where you had the rider down, I guess you only need 2 characters to get there. And my first thought when I see it is it's like a win more card, but it is unlike Finders Keepers in that Finders Keepers is drawing you less cards and it's an action. So second star to the right, you get to sing it, and then you also get to play cards that turn. So that makes it, you know, quite a bit different. And when you run things like Tipo, you don't have to be as worried about it getting stuck in your hand. But where you're running 3 copies of Second Star to the right, 4 copies of Hades, 2 copies of Elsa, you're looking at a lot of really high costs on inkables. So again, you have to be extremely careful with going for that altar that you so desperately need in that turn 2 ramp. So I'd love to watch how Kindle goes about doing his altars with this deck. I think that would be the part that would be really interesting to see and learn on how he navigates a deck that he knows if he could very well brick on cards that will lose him the game because he never gets to play them. But doing really well, going forth with something that I'm sure everyone thought would never see the light of play, being that Second Star to the right, and also Rider. I didn't even know that was a card, to be perfectly honest. So, really good job. Next up, we just have 2 miscellaneous lists that I saw from this weekend that I wanted to show off. I wasn't able to get my hands on the deck list from Anaheim. They had the 6K as well as the 2K. Once I'm able to get my hands on them, maybe I'll do another video separately highlighting both of those events so we can see what the meta was, because the meta was very different there, it seems. The 2K alone had a whole bunch of Chernadog decks. I guess it's not Chernadog anymore, but had a whole lot of dog decks. So really different overall. But let's look at them. And the first one up is, I'm going to say 2 Changs, and that's not right, I'm sure. But a member of the Flower Farm, and this is his version of Baja Blast, just discard ramp Reckless. And he did really well with it. He was in the 2K event where he took 4th, and the deck is just doing nasty things. If you thought discard was dead, well, he's showing that discard is definitely not dead. And when we look at this list, it is slightly different, I believe, than what he actually ran this weekend. Now that I look at it, I think this is what he made changes to. The list he ran this weekend actually had, I believe it only had 3 big Clarabelles. I think it was 3 big Clarabelles. I don't remember now, but looking at it, there's slight differences. It doesn't matter. I want to talk about the list. Most of his day was against aggro decks. I think the majority, like almost every round, was against aggro decks, and he was just able to handle it very well. When you run things like Chip and against an aggro deck that needs that card draw so badly, that needs every single card so badly, against the dog decks that are trying to set up getting to that tramp, Chip could very well just destroy the entire game plan. And then you have Basil over here. During your turn, whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you may pay 1 to have chosen opponent choose and discard a card. So a lot of discard going against these aggro decks when they so desperately need that card draw. So those are really big and probably helped a lot. Meanwhile, Chip being able to challenge really well. That Basil coming down on turn 3. If you played Basil on 1, ramped on 2, and then shift on turn 3. And then the other thing that stands out is the Pleakley. And Pleakley is a card that, if you look at my Dreamborn, that I am super high on in Baja Blast right now. And I think he's just phenomenal. With all this purple steel, I think you've just got to be crazy to not run Pleakley. He's amazing right now. He's a 3-cost inkable 3/4/1. When you play this character, put chosen character of yours into your inkwell face down and exert it. So just ramping you really well, because now you can go Tipo on 2, into Pleakley on turn 3, into Donald Duck, or even just, so Pleakley takes you to 3, Tipo takes you to 3 ink, then on your turn 3 you ink to go to 4 ink, and then Pleakley the Tipo to go to 6 ink. Right? Tipo will take you to 3. Then so Pleakley just really ramping you up super high, and then if you go Donald Duck the next turn, you're pretty much set on ink for the rest of the game, and you still have a really healthy hand. Looking at the list, other things that stand out is the Robin Hoods. He felt really strongly about the Robin Hoods, that he wanted to add more into the list, being a 4/4/2. If you ramped really hard with like Tipo, then Robin Hood a lot of the time will help you draw a card while also challenging into the opponent's Dumbo, which can be a very difficult card for for Baja Blast to handle, but also Robin Hood being able to take out genies in a really good trade. So that Robin Hood kind of slowing or stopping your opponent overall. So a really unique way to look at Baja Blast, and that did really well for him. I definitely encourage you to give it a try and see how you like it. The last thing I want to point out about it, the deck only has 7 uninkables. So if you love being able to alter 7 every single game and never have to worry about bricking, this might be the deck to check out. So really huge shout out to the Flower Farm, and really good job taking 4th place. The other one I want to look at is Color Blind. I thought it was Color Slaw. No, that's someone completely different. Colorblind taking 2nd place at the 6K with his dog list, and doing really well. One thing to keep in mind, let's talk standout cards. Standout cards, first off, Scrump. Okay, Scrump, a card that most people don't even know exists, but they do now, all right? And it's an item, and you exert one of your characters, and then a chosen character gets -2 attack until the start of your next turn. So if you played a bunch of 1-drops, and then you have Scrump down, you go into one of the tramps, right? So maybe you shift tramp would be best case scenario. Shift tramp and use a 1-drop, shift tramp and then use a 2-drop. Then you can sing Under the Sea. And if you have any other 1-drops down, then you're able to exert those 1-drops to pretty much clear your entire opponent's field. A lot in the same way that Red Blue did that with Coil and Big Sizu. So just a really unique combo that I'm sure every time he did it, people were very surprised. So looking at the list, it's doing what Dogs wants to do. You have the ability to quest super fast, super hard. You have Lady, that's a pseudo draw. You shift. Whenever you play this character, you may return 2 characters with cost 2 or less to your hand. Really good there. The Shift Tramp, letting you draw cards whenever one of your characters is banished. This includes himself. If Tramp is banished, then you get to draw a card for Tramp being banished. Then you have the Go-Go's gaining you that free lore. You have the Lilos that you can play from your discard when you discard them with Tramp. And then you have Ursula. One thing to keep in mind with Ursula is there's definitely there's better ways to play her with this, because the cards you really have to worry about is Strength of a Raging Fire, Into the Unknown, and then finally the Under the Sea. So when your opponent's setting up to that, you don't need to play Ursula on turn 2 against a green-blue deck, because they might not have Under the Sea in their list yet or in their hand yet. So when they got the characters to be able to sing Under the Sea, that's when you drop that Ursula to get rid of that card. Or if you see them play Visions when they have the characters, that's when you use the Ursula if they show you the Under the Sea. So one of those cards, you just kind of hold back a little bit and kind of wait and be patient. And that's also the name of the game with this deck. There's games where you just need to be patient. Set up a huge wall of characters and then quest out in 2 turns. Let your opponent deal with you. All right. One thing to keep in mind, though, Purple Steel, extremely popular. This deck will feast on Blurple all day, every day, but it just does not have a good time against Purple Steel whatsoever. And Purple Steel can even draw mediocre, and it's still not going to have a great time. So just keep that in mind. If you're expecting a lot of Purple Steel, I don't know if this is the route you go, but it can. If you get those characters down, you get that Under the Sea and Scrump, the game's just kind of over. So give it a try, check out, Fight Club, check that out. Maybe you can get some testing in, Pixelborn Connect, or your buddies, give it a try. It worked well for him. So next up, we've got some Infinity stuff. We just have 2 lists, okay? We have 2 lists. Took first place at some big events this weekend, one being a 200-person event and one being a the SSG event, a really big event of a lot of great players. So looking at these, keep in mind the third DLC in EU as well as in A going to be Infinity format. So looking at these, we got Wochuk finally winning, getting the glory that he deserves, finally able to take that first place finish at a big event. And imagine that he went back to Old Faithful, all right? He went back to Amber Steel, that Gaston version that we know him for so well, instead of the shift line, and just playing that tempo version, which is just, you know, he's been playing a lot of Purple Steel lately for the last couple sets. So these lists are very similar. The Purple Steel tempo, this kind of no shift line explosiveness, just kind of playing your characters out, and they're very similar. And Wochuk saw a fair amount of different decks. He beat 2 red-blue players, the Neverlands coming in and just winning him games, on Neverland really being the card to win him those 2 games against red-blue. It's Amber Steel. I don't need to harp on it. We've harped on it for a year and a half in different videos. Just wanted to give you a look at something to consider this set in Infinity. Next up, we've got Angelina, taking first in a 200-person event in the EU with her version of green purple, and a good aggro version. This is we've got the curse. Look, like, we've got a bunch of the 1-drops. We've got the curse. I think there was one point I turned into the stream. She had 3 cursed merfolks down. Like, good game to your hand, right? But then Flynn Rider also destroying your hand. She just played it phenomenally well. I think it was finals where she had baited her opponent into taking out one of her characters, and then she had 2 Go-Go's in hand and was able to use those Go-Go's to gain 8 lore in 1 turn. The red-blue player attacked the Iago with a Maui Half Shark, so that Maui Half Shark had 4 damage, and then she played the 2 Go-Go's and gained 8 lore and won the game that way. So just, again, one of the things that I love about green purple is there's so many different lines that you can do with all the different cards. Maybe you played an Ursula and you saw they had a whole bunch of songs in their deck or in their hand, so you know, instead of bouncing another character like Cursed Merfolk so you can replay it, instead you bounce that Ursula so you can play Ursula to drain their hand even more. You have the levers that are helping you to control the board, draw cards, make your opponent discard, whatever it is you need to do. You set up that Peter Pan for aggro so you can go Iago the next turn. You get it. All right, just a great deck, something else to consider for an Infinity event that you may be doing this weekend, like the Ink Infinity event. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all the lists for this video. All right, again, I wasn't able to get my hands on the Anaheim lists, but if we see them, I'll probably just do a poll on the channel if you guys want a separate video on the Anaheim lists. But yeah, don't doom and gloom yet, all right? We still have a long ways to go for this meta. We still have a lot of events to go for this meta, and it's very early. There's going to be a lot of stuff popping its head up that we're going to be seeing that does very well into Purple Steel, that does well into Blurple, and just don't doom and gloom yet, all right? I promise. It's a little mad out there, but we'll be okay. Ladies and gentlemen, all that being said, remember, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, and subscribe. Even if you don't, just stay happy and healthy, and I'll see you around.